Hi, so today I'm going to talk about why IT projects fail. IT projects can fail due to various reasons. So, as a business analyst and in my 20-year career, one of the things we've seen is there are certain things that businesses can do to prevent IT projects from failing. So, today I want to highlight some of those things I learned in my career and where you can actually use that knowledge to make sure your next project you cover all those ends and it's not going to fail. So let's start. Hi, my name is Dasun and I'm the CEO of DASCX Consulting. We are a business analyst consultancy here based in Melbourne. One of our primary services we offer to our customers are that we do project delivery. So as a business analyst, we make sure that we deliver the project using the best practice available that based on our experience to ensure the project is delivered successfully. Before we get into the reasons for IT projects to fail, I want to talk about I will consider a successful project. A successful project, in my definition, is the project that was delivered on time, within budget, and also deliver all the expected outcomes. So when you actually start a project, you say, okay, this is what we want to achieve. So the project has delivered all those things. And also the adoption rates are over 80%. So those are the four things that I normally measure to deem a project as successful. Anything beyond that, adoption rate can be a tricky one measurement, but anything without those first three components, I won't consider that as a successful project. So let's start. So the first one I want to talk about is very important that you set clear expectations at the beginning of the project. So when you start the project, you have to make sure that you clearly identify and communicate the expectations of the project and be very, very clear about it. Do not leave any ambiguity when you start that, because one of the things that a lot of companies or a lot of projects deem fail is you actually have ambiguous objectives. So at the end of the project, you actually think, okay, we expected this, but it's never going to happen. So this is where you have to be very clear from the beginning and be very honest in communicating as a project, this is what we are delivering and this is what we are not delivering. So when you do the scope, set the scope. So I'm not talking about the technical scope, I'm talking about the overall project scope. You have to say these are the items that we are delivering, 1, 2, 3, 4, and these are the things that we are not delivering. And make sure that the business users and the stakeholders clearly understands and sign that off. So that's number one. Number two is gathering business requirements early on. So I know a lot of companies, I have seen that in my career as well. They're like, let's not identify the business requirements now, it's too early. Let's just do it when we actually find the vendor and let the vendor do the business requirement. It can work, but in my experience, that's where certain problems happen, because for you to go to the market and find a vendor, you have to identify as a business what do you want to achieve. So it is very important. So when we do a project, we always make sure we do a business requirement gathering session prior to going through the RFP process. So you can identify as a business, these are our needs. These is the priorities, these are nice to haves, and these things we don't need it. So those things, when you actually identify the business requirements, you know exactly what you actually want the solutions to deliver. So it is very important. Second point is very important that you do a good business requirement gathering session prior to the commencements of the project. So number three is changing of scope. So this is one of the main reasons, like when I was a developer, we hate that when the customers change their scope in middle of the development cycle. So there are certain scenarios that you have to do this, like you miss something during the requirement gathering, so you have to go and change that. So when that happens, you must have processes in place to go and do this, control it without impacting the project budgets, the timelines and things like that, or communicate that up front. This change will have these kind of issues and then handle it. So as project leaders, you have to make sure you do that. But the problem is a lot of companies, a lot of project managers, not a lot, some project managers, why projects fail is project managers pretty much push the change into the development life cycle, but they do not look at how this is going to impact your timelines, budgets, and so on and so forth, and the overall architecture. Certain changes, you may have to go back and redo the entire architecture. You have to do that. And a lot of time customers like, why? This is so easy. This is like simple change. Nah, but like you have to be able to clearly communicate, explain the reason why you have to do that. Go a few steps back and do it. Because otherwise what's going to happen is you're going to regret that down the line. So you have to, it's one of the biggest responsibilities of the project manager and the business analyst in a project to guard the scope of the project. You have to be very, very vigilant when you're guarding that. Make sure there's no creep during the development life cycle of the project. So that's number 3. Number 4 is going over budget. This is a bit related to the third point I just highlighted, because going over budget is actually one of the main reasons why projects can be deemed as fail, because obviously it can be due to various reasons. One is you do not do the estimations properly at the beginning. You don't see certain things and you don't estimate for that, and then towards the development life cycle or towards the end you realize, look, you're running out of money. That can be one reason. The other reason can be the business runs out of money. They promise this much money, but then they find it for financial reasons or whatever it is. They can say, oh, look, we don't have it. So you can't call that a fail on the project, but this is how the actual projects can fail. Because we are looking at the project from the business perspective, not from the IT perspective. So it's a failed project in that sense, because we ran out of money. So some of the things you actually have to do is make sure that you guard the budget. So when we run a project, we make sure that obviously sometimes the BS run the budget, look after it. If you play the BA and the project coordinator, project manager roles, you have to make sure you manage the budget very, very carefully and always keep track of everything that's going on within the project to ensure that you're not going to go over budget. And if you think that you are going over budget, you have to make sure you highlight that, raise that straight away with the stakeholders, with the leadership group, and say this is what's happening. So it's very, very important to keep a close eye on the budgets. So the next one is communication. It is very important for you to have a good, clear communication process or a system within your project. So obviously when we run a project, at the beginning of the project, we actually specify, okay, this is the communication we're going to do. Weekly communication to the key project stakeholders, fortnightly communication to the leadership team, and then for weekly or monthly communication to the wider group or the business to tell them this is what's coming on. And also within the project team itself, you have to make sure you have clear, precise, accurate communication in place so everybody's across what's going on. So I always believe in transparency. Sometimes, people have mixed feelings, mixed ideas about being so transparent. I've come across several project managers like, nah, we shouldn't do that. But for me, always full disclosure. Never hide anything. You just tell them exactly this is what's happening, what's going on. And it's actually worked well for me. So that's something I strongly recommend. So the communication is very important. There's no such a thing as too much communication. So more things you can communicate, the better. So communication is extremely important, and you have to make sure you have systems in place and you have time scheduled as a project manager, as a business analyst. If you run the project, you have to have those communication things, and it's actually going to help you quite a lot to keep the project on track. Because one of the reasons why communication fail is when people don't know exactly what's going on. They have misinterpretation. They heard something from somebody, and that can actually shake the foundation of the project. So you have to make sure you keep that going, and it's very important part of stakeholder management. So I don't know, I lost count, so that's what it is. The last one I want to actually do to highlight is not starting change management early. So a lot of projects wait, or a lot of project teams wait till the end to start change management, because the thing is, a lot of firms do not have internal business analysts or anybody to start this change management. So they talk about, all they do is focus on that development piece of the project, and once the project is delivered, They just, okay, implement it and more like shoving the change management part, say, ah, yeah, here you go, now go do it. So they wait till the end to do change management. What happened when you wait till the end to do change management is you have to rush certain things and get things done and implement, and you expect people to just pick it up and run, but that's not going to happen. So it is very important for you to start change management at the early as possible. So obviously in our process and what we follow at my firm, we start change management during the development. So we actually start planning change management before we start the project. We identify where are the things that we have to change, whose project roles are changing, whose job descriptions are changing, who needs extra training, what needs to be done, what procedures needs to be changed, and things like that. So that's the change management part I'm talking about, the business change management component, which is very, very important to deem a project as a successful project, because adoption is super important. So that's it, guys. So those are the things I want to highlight. So again, just a quick recap. First one is setting clear expectations from the beginning of the project, getting a scope, very clear scope defined for the project. That's number one. Number two is gathering business requirements properly, like clear, specific requirements. It is very important you do that, because it's going to help you with your RFP process. It'll actually going to help you to find the right solution, right vendor for your project, because otherwise when you don't know exactly what you actually need as a business, a lot of firms pick the wrong product and they go down the lane and they go, oh, this product's not doing ABC, so now we have to pull the plug and go with something else. So number two is very important, that you gather business requirement at early as possible. Then change of scope creep, you have to watch out for that. That's very important. That's number three. Number four is managing the budget, not going over the budget. That's very important as well. Obviously when the projects go over budget, it's a straight away it's a failed project, well, in my terms, because obviously you can pull more money and get it done, but like there are certain events people go, nah, that's not right thing to do, and then they can the project. So there are certain times you can actually go a little bit over budget. Even like in some of my projects I've gone certain over budget. It's not like massive amounts, so those things you can actually still call it an okay project and you can get it delivered. Then obviously communication is very important. You have to get the communication right. So that's because that's another thing that projects fail. Due to bad communications, the projects can actually fail. So the last one is not starting change management is also another problem. You have to make sure you start change management early as possible. So that way when you actually go live, you know exactly what's the plan in place, and you know exactly what targets you need to achieve in order to deem the change management has been successful. So there you go, guys. So that's those some of the things that you can do to stop a project from failing. It is very important that you actually follow these things, because it helped me quite a lot in my career, and wherever that I've missed any of these steps, those projects never been a good experience. So it's very important that you actually do that. So if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to me. Obviously at DASCX, what we do is we specialize in delivering projects for companies who doesn't have internal project delivery capability, and we make sure that we not just focus on that small piece of development and the implementation. We actually look at the project from much more wider perspective, from your business cases, business requirement, finding the right vendors, right solutions for your problem, and then all the way once the project is implemented, we also make sure that change management is done and the benefits are delivered. We ensure that the entire process is managed, and that's why this day I have been maintaining a very healthy project success rate. We recently deployed another successful project, so if you follow the process, it's not going to fail. Projects are not going to fail. Obviously, there are certain external things, but 99% of the time, I'm very certain that when you follow these few things, you actually can have a good outcome. So thanks for watching, guys. And if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Take care. Bye-bye.